Hello and welcome to this explainer. Okay, picture this. You're staring at a 90-second countdown timer on your screen and suddenly your mind goes totally blank. If you've been there, you are exactly in the right place today. We're breaking down CLP Speaking Task 1, which is all about giving advice. Our main goal here is to give you the ultimate strategy to easily conquer those 90 seconds without rambling, without hesitating, and definitely without running out of things to say. We're going to build a mental framework so incredibly strong that you'll be able to handle absolutely any scenario they throw at you. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our structured roadmap to getting you that high score. First, the trap and the blueprint. Second, the universal template. Third, Canadian cultural scenarios. And finally, test day strategies. All right, section 1, the trap and the blueprint. Let's talk about conquering those 90 seconds.
When you've only got 90 seconds to speak, there's a massive pitfall that catches even advanced test takers completely off guard. We call it the trap, and basically, it's rambling. People usually come up with maybe one or two ideas, and to fill the time, they just spin in circles. It totally lacks detail. So what's the winning strategy? It's providing exactly 3 independent suggestions. And the golden rule here is that every single suggestion must include a specific action and the reason behind it.
To make this super concrete, here is your exact timeline blueprint. Think of this like a mental mind map to keep you perfectly on track. You spend exactly 10 seconds on your opening, just greeting the person and stating the purpose. Then boom, you allocate 20 seconds to your first suggestion, 20 seconds to your second, and 20 seconds to your third. Finally, wrap it up with a polite 10-second closing. By rigidly dividing your time like this, you completely eliminate that panic of wondering what to say next. You literally just follow the clock.
Moving right along to section 2, the high-scoring universal template.
Now, these specific plug-and-play phrases, they are your secret weapon. They completely remove the cognitive load of trying to think about grammar on the spot. You just open with, "Hi, so-and-so, I understand that you are planning to," and simply paraphrase the prompt. Then you hit them with strong transition signals. First of all, I highly recommend that you, followed right away by, "This is because," and "for example." Then you smoothly glide into, "Secondly, it would be a great idea to," and finally, lastly, "don't forget to." Memorizing these structural anchors allows your brain to focus entirely on generating high-level vocabulary for whatever specific prompt you get.
Which brings us to section 3, Canadian cultural scenarios. Let's put this into practice.
You know, a template is really only as good as the ideas you put into it. And because CLPIP is a specifically Canadian test, demonstrating real cultural awareness instantly elevates your score. So here's our first prompt. A friend is moving to Canada this winter and is absolutely terrified of the extreme cold. How would you tackle this distinctly Canadian survival scenario using our 3-suggestion blueprint?
Well, before we answer, we need to understand a vital cultural concept here, dressing in layers, or what some call the onion method. In Canada, sure, it might be minus 20 degrees outside, but the indoor heating systems in malls and offices are incredibly strong. We're talking a warm 25 degrees indoors. If you wear just one giant, heavy sweater, you are going to overheat the second you step inside. So you must advise your friend to wear a warm base layer and a windproof, waterproof outer layer that's easy to peel off.
Applying our blueprint, here is your 90-second answer. First suggestion, tell them to buy high-quality winter jackets and waterproof boots, but specifically advise them to buy these after they arrive in Canada, because local brands are actually designed for that extreme cold. Second suggestion, teach them to dress in layers to handle that intense indoor heating. Third suggestion, remind them the Canadian winters have notoriously short daylight hours, which can really affect your mood, so they should take vitamin D supplements or stay active indoors. That is 3 distinct, highly detailed suggestions. Let's look at scenario 2. Your colleague is relocating to a bilingual city in Canada, say Montreal or Gatineau in the capital region, and wants to improve their French quickly to integrate. This prompt is directly testing your knowledge of Canada's bilingual landscape.
The absolute key high-level vocabulary word you want to use here is francisation, which refers to community welcome classes. In regions like Quebec, these are government-sponsored or community programs. But here's the secret. It's not just about language learning. It is a vital networking tool. It's the place where new immigrants meet friends and build a local support system. Mentioning this, it shows deep cultural awareness. And this brilliantly illustrates how we can structure our answer. First of all, highly recommend that they switch their daily media over to French radio stations or local news to really get used to the local accent and speed. Secondly, advise them to join those francisation welcome classes, explaining that it's absolutely crucial for networking. Lastly, tell them to force themselves to practice daily by ordering in French at local coffee shops, noting that locals are usually super encouraging to newcomers trying to learn. Moving right along to prompt number 3, this one focuses on small business and e-commerce. You've got a talented artist friend who wants to sell their artwork online across North America, but they just don't know where to start. For this scenario, you really need to understand 2 realities of Canadian e-commerce. First, Canada is a massive country. That means shipping costs via Canada Post can be surprisingly high and really eat into your profits. Second, building a standalone website from scratch is incredibly hard, so leveraging platforms that have built-in traffic, like Etsy, is essential for beginners. Using terms like shipping costs and built-in traffic shows the examiner you've got excellent business vocabulary. So your 3 suggestions would be, first, start on established platforms like Etsy or eBay to take advantage of their built-in traffic, rather than struggling alone to find those first customers. Second, suggest they invest in high-quality natural light photography, specifically because visual presentation directly drives conversion rates. Third, explicitly warn them to research and calculate Canada Post shipping rates in advance so they price their art correctly and avoid losing money. All right, let's tackle the 4th scenario. A friend is looking for an extracurricular activity for their teenage son in Canada that builds discipline, physical fitness, and leadership. This perfectly tests your knowledge of Canadian youth development programs and local school culture. Here is exactly how you impress the examiner. Suggestion 1. Recommend the Royal Canadian Air Cadets. It's a highly respected, completely free national program that teaches discipline, leadership, and even aviation. Suggestion 2, suggest martial arts, like karate, to build focus and burn off some of that teenage energy. Suggestion 3, and this is your cultural home run, remind them to participate in community volunteering. Specifically mention that Canadian high schools actually have mandatory volunteer hours required for graduation. It's so practical and culturally spot on. Now, our final prompt is often considered the trickiest because it deals with the Canadian financial system. A friend just secured a high-paying job in Canada and needs advice on personal finance and investing. To ace this, you must know 2 critical Canadian financial acronyms, TFSA and RRSP. The TFSA is a tax-free savings account. Any money you make on investments inside it is completely tax-free, period. The RRSP is a registered retirement savings plan. Putting money in here actually lowers your current tax bracket, which is absolutely crucial for someone who just landed a high-paying job. Putting it all together for our 90 seconds. First of all, tell them to immediately open a TFSA and invest in low-risk ETFs, like the S&P 500, so their gains are tax-free. Secondly, advise them to build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund in a high-interest savings account to ensure stability in case something unexpected happens. Lastly, strongly recommend contributing to an RRSP. Explain that because of their high salary, their tax bracket has gone up, and an RRSP will lower their taxable income and potentially get them a nice tax refund. Using these acronyms correctly in this context practically guarantees a top-tier score. That is a sophisticated, highly detailed answer. Okay, Section 4, Test Day Strategies. Let's look at some actionable advice. Here is your foolproof test day method. During practice and on the real test, when that 30-second preparation timer starts, do not try to write full sentences. Just write down exactly 3 core verbs and nouns on your scratch paper. For the winter prompt, just write boots, layers, vitamin D. These are your anchors. When you speak, you just connect these anchors using your memorized template. And a quick pro tip, if you realize you're speaking way too fast and have time left over, do not panic. Just say, for example, and invent a hyper-specific scenario to expand on your current point until the clock runs out. By utilizing the 3-suggestion blueprint, memorizing those transition phrases, and arming yourself with real Canadian cultural facts, you completely change the game. You turn a terrifying 90 seconds into an opportunity to showcase your fluency. So I'll leave you with this thought. The next time you see that 90-second timer begin to count down, will you freeze and panic, or will you calmly look at your 3 anchor words and execute the perfect plan? The choice and that high score is entirely in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy studying.